We might still have a day or maybe two before the builder arrives to do any work on the house. Obviously the first job he'll be doing is taking the floor up in here. So I'm just going to spend the next couple of days carrying on with some of this pointing on the walls. I've made a start already on the top up here, just underneath the wall plate, trying to get a strip along there of these very loose stones. Just get them pointed up, just stabilise the top of that wall. So I'll move my way along and try and get as much done as possible. As you can see, I think we've gone through this before, but a lot of this is so loose, but it all needs digging out. And because every time you move one thing, something else becomes loose, then I'm having to do sections. Like this section has been done up to here, and that section there has been done back up to here, and now we're into the middle. So I need to scrape as much out of this loose, it's almost like sand, as you can see, just nothing there. So we need to get as much of that out as possible and get some new mortar in them gaps, and then that area there will be solid again as well, and then we can move on to some of these other smaller areas and then carry on the whole length of the wall. Obviously that gable end is only been done up to probably this level here, so the rest of that wall needs doing at that end. And at that end too. So we're certainly not out of the woods when it comes to pointing these walls. There's a good few weeks work left, but we'll carry on, and then hopefully things will start happening in other places too. I'll try and show you the process as it goes along. I'll scrape a bit more of this out and I'll show you again in a minute. So the dry mortar in that area now is dug out. Everything's loose, everything's just hanging in there. Next job is to blow a lot of that loose out of there, and then we'll wet it down. So just get this blown out. Next, let's get some water on there. Get a lot of these stones wetted down. We'll mix up some mortar, and then we'll build that bit of wall back in. And hopefully that should last us another 100 years. Let's go and mix up some mortar. Got my trusty bucket and my measuring pan. The sand is round the back here. Waiting for some more serious building work. Maybe maybe another week, maybe another 2 weeks before anything starts happening. But it gives me a chance to carry on with the pointing on the inside of the house. Here's the sand. It's just bog standard building sand, nothing fancy. This bag's nearly done now. I'll get some of that into the bucket. So in the measuring pan, take a level measure of sand into the bucket. We need 8 of those to start the mix. So I'll just explain the mix here. I'm using ordinary Portland cement and I'm using hydrated lime, not hydraulic lime. A lot of people are going to complain now saying it's an old building, you should be using hydraulic lime. But I do keep needing to point out that these walls, I'm making them structural. I'm not making them breathable. The breathable mortar will be on the outside of the building when the render comes off, and the outside of the building will be scraped out the same and repointed, but with a hydraulic lime mix to make this side of the building breathable. The inside of the building, that wall will become an internal wall because of the extension. These walls will be tanked and insulated. And what I'm trying to do is make the structure sound. I'm trying to make a stronger structure. And the mix I'm using is 8 of sand to 1 of hydrated lime to 1 of Portland cement, which is still quite a weak mix. So it's not a very powerful mix. It'll still allow a certain amount of flexibility, if you like. It's not a solid mix. If it was a really, really high cement mix, I will imagine the walls would be cracking and not being able to do what the old house walls need to do. So that's my justification for doing what I'm doing. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people who will disagree with me, but that's where we are. So hydraulic lime on the outside, hydrated lime on the inside with Portland cement, but a weak mix. And that's where it is. So let's get this mixed up now. So then back up 8 sand into there. 1 level of lime. Level Portland. So first we'll give this a good dry mix. Get it all mixed up dry. So all them grains of sand want a nice coating of cement and lime. You can tell when you get in there because the colour goes out of the sand. It's got this kind of red sand down here. It's not ideal. I prefer a greyer sand. Looks nicer, but on the inside here, not a lot of it's going to be seen, so we'll be fine. Lovely mix. The lime in there actually makes it more workable as well. Just gives it a bit more of a putty feel rather than a building sand. You can use additives now to hello Roy. You can use additives instead of lime, but we're using the lime to keep it strong but weak, if you like. So I'll have some water. The other thing we're doing here is trying to keep, this is why I'm not really using a mixer at this stage, because I'm trying to keep the mix quite dry. It doesn't want to be, because the gaps are so big in places, if I had the mix too sloppy, it'd just be falling out. Because I'm not building, I'm pointing, and the joints are so big, it'd just be running back out of the joints because there's no weight in the joint, as it were. So, trying to keep it nice and dry, obviously with enough moisture to make it workable. Get that mixed right to the bottom there. Probably still needs a bit more wet in there. You can see it looks quite crumbly at the minute. It's obviously only a small batch because the wall in place is so crumbly that I need to work in small areas. So a bigger batch would just be sitting there for hours while I'm raking out and coming back and doing. So at this stage, just making up small batches is perfect for this. I should probably do it now. As you can see, quite a dry mix, but it's workable. You see how it's flattening out? And also, I'm giving the stones a good wetting down before I use the mix as well. Give everything a nice bond. Now, I'll just show you that on the hawk. There you go. You can see that it's not quite a good putty mix. You can see it's workable. That'll go into the joints quite nicely now. Quite nice. You can see, that's why you keep dry. You see, the more you work it, the more you'll bring the water up to the surface. There you go. Not a bad mix, that one. I don't always get it right. Sometimes it ends a bit too wet, sometimes a bit too dry, but that's quite a nice one today. So now we'll try and get some mortar into these joints. Get it nice and tight in there. Get it packed as tight as possible. Push it right to the back. Get it packed in. We can come back and neaten it up a bit later. It's just a matter of getting in there first. In now, we'll come back and give them a bit of a tap. That one in too. Just go and get on the way of packing them in. These rammed in tight as we can. Might need to put a bit more mortar under that one. I should get a bit more. Let's just get that tidied up now. So that pointing has had an hour or so now to just begin to set, and it needs a good brushing in. So we'll bang it in, make sure it's all compressed. Finish it off a bit nicer. A lot of this won't ever be seen, obviously, because we'll be tanking and covering a lot of these walls, but it just gives it a bit more of a finish and compresses it into the joints. It probably makes for a very shaky video, but there we go. And we just let that fully set now. That probably needs pushing in a little bit there. Might need to add a little bit more there, look. Just needed a bit more compression, a bit more packing in. I'll stick a bit more mortar on there. It probably needs patting again in another hour or so. We'll keep going. So that's a little rebuild, a little fix up of that area. I'll give that an hour just to start going off, and then we'll come back and neaten it up some more. In the meantime, we'll carry on fixing up the rest of the wall. Hopefully get this top strip finished before the builder arrives and starts digging up the floor, in which case I won't be able to do any more for a while until the slab goes down. So yeah, but when I come to finishing off, I'll do another little video and show you how we do that. But it does look better straight away, doesn't it? Well, I think so.